Rolling.
Yep.
Welcome into episode number 21, Blackjack of the Creed of Crypto podcast, where we provide immersive, essential, and evergreen strategies for the novice cryptocurrency investor. How you doing? I'm one half of your hosts, Broke Boy Crypto. Some people call me BBC. I'm going to leave that one up to you. I've got with me Crypto Ewok as always. Normally I say we got a lot to get into tonight. We're getting to that point of the bear market where you're kind of scraping at the bottom of the barrel for things to talk about, but I think we're going to manage. Ewok, how you doing tonight? How you enjoying the bear vibes?
I'm doing good. I've been kind of obsessed with the Weather Channel last couple of days, just watching the folks in Florida getting through that. I've got a lot of friends and actually some family down there. My oldest daughter's not in any harm's way, but some good friends on the Gulf side. So thinking about them, and I think the most of them got pretty lucky from what I saw. So
definitely some interesting stuff. Yeah, every year right around now with the Southeast, you kind of assume you're going to see some of that stuff. But yeah, hopefully, this is going to show how pathetic I am when it comes to news cycles. I don't even know the name of this thing. What's the name of this hurricane?
Ian.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Another I. They've been. I think the Florida has been hit. Well, not Icosa, but this Ian. There was Irma. There was Ivan. I don't know if Ivan. I don't know where Ivan was, but
that sounds more threatening than Ian. I mean, Ivan sounds pretty.
Yeah. Ivan the Terrible.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
Well, yeah. So
no hurricanes
other than that,
where we are.
Doing well. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. That is good, but not we're used to hurricane type weather when it comes to crypto, figuratively, but right now there's just kind of a whole lot of nothing going on with the market, which can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. It just depends upon your perspective. And what we've been talking about on this show for the past few weeks, and anybody who's very serious, in terms of investing in crypto, being in crypto long term as a hodler, obviously these are the times you want to make sure that you're still here and you don't leave the market. And that is the thing, is that so many people have actually left the market at this point. You see it in the numbers on like our YouTube channels, podcast listens. It's not just us. I mean, there's data about this just as far as Google searches for crypto or Bitcoin. We're just in that time. And, in past bear cycles, there have been these times where we hit kind of that mass capitulation where things really, really went downhill. And people are panicking. This is it. Bitcoin's actually going to go to zero this time. And then there was just that really boring, I guess it would have been like 2019, the last time around. Just really long, boring period of time where you stay right at 6K back then. Is 19K or 20K the new 6K now? I'm going to let that up to you, Ewok. But that's kind of my question. Are we, I already know your answer, but are we past the big time capitulation and now we're just sitting in this really boring range for a year? Or is there still another big leg down? And if and when that happens, how long do you think we endure that dip down for?
So yeah, I think there's another leg down. 2018 was the rough year we had. 2019 was after the capitulation, and it just was a slow, steady rise. I think I've been saying, until Richard's proven wrong, we're going to go with his call right around 11,000. But I think once that happens, we will see a little capitulation from there. But I think we'll chop around in the 16,000 for a while. So it usually comes up a little bit. I did see a stat the other day, something about usually every market cycle brings in a new group of people, and we end up losing about half of the new ones
right
on the way down, in the bear cycle. That's why it takes so long, is because you can't keep all the new ones obviously every time, because they make stupid choices and get involved with the Lunas and the Celsiuses and lose their entire savings and probably a marriage or two along the way. So we're gonna capitulate after that, though. I think the bottom, it could even go lower than that. I think it's
Hmm.
going to be in the 10,000 somewhere. I think what I say 10,786 was
Right.
my right on call.
Yeah.
Great to hit it, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I think I think everybody should probably want to. I know you're not even saying this, but I think a lot of people should be hoping we don't go like sub 10 because that would be like more of a danger type thing. I think then that would turn 10, I think, into resistance, and I don't even know what we'd be looking at there. I mean, I think we'd be looking at like a very very long bear market at that point. I mean, do you think there's a chance of that? I mean, I guess there's always a chance of anything, but do you think it could go that low?
There's a chance. It depends on how fast it goes.
Mm,
These liquidation wicks can happen rather quickly that cause a cascading effect sometimes. So
mhm.
yeah, it could go down, but I think it would get bought right back up pretty quickly. If I do remember, 14,000 was a local top before we reached the 20,000. And that's why I say we chop around at that 14, 15 for a while. It could act as a resistance on the way back up, um, a little bit, and then it'll probably break through and chop around a little bit. But I think it's gonna. That's the range, not the current range that we're in now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know how much time we would spend in that mid to low teens area. I mean, we've already spent so much time here, kind of. You know what I mean? In between this, like, I guess, like, there's been enough consistency in the mid 18s up to about 23 or so. We've really had a lot of consolidation in this area. Um, I guess, like, for me, I was actually hoping that number one, that bigger dip down would happen a little bit sooner than what we've seen and that it would be somewhat quicker. Do you think there's anything to worry about in terms of like with how long we have been ranging in this kind of sector again between 18 and a half and 23 and a half or so? Um, because we've been there for so long, do you think that that could mean an even bigger drawdown and staying down there for a while? Or I don't know. I guess I just thought we would have seen a sharper move already. What do you think about that? Do you think that the amount of time we spent in this range spells kind of danger for how long we would spend lower later, I guess?
Well, yeah, the longer we stay below this range now, the harder it's going to be to break through it on the way back up. So
Right.
that's standard with any market. Whenever you set a resistance point, it gets harder and harder to break through. Um, Mostly because people set orders in those areas. So whether
Hmm.
they're buy orders or sell orders, they're chopping back and forth. They've got to get through all of that stuff first. So that's one of the reasons why. I forget what indicator there is on the charts, but it will show you um, where the majority of the liquidity sits and at what
Mm.
price. It's a pretty cool indicator. But the ones that get thicker obviously take longer to break through them. But once you get through them, then it's smooth sailing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and we have seen, I don't want to say a lot of volatility, but some strong volatility here just in the last couple of days. We're recording this here. We are live on Wednesday night, September the 28th. I always say this and I forgot already, but Bitcoin is currently sitting just about 19 and a half or so the last I looked. Yeah, 19. Yeah, just about on the dot, 19.5. And then ETH at 1341 is where we are at the moment. Um, but we've seen some crazy volatility over the last, I'd say, 48 hours of all of a sudden this, I don't wouldn't call it a rally, but a bounce up into the mid 20s or so. And then it was yesterday, and it was severe enough that I texted you because it was so crazy. But we just had like a red candle from hell and took
Yeah.
us the whole way back down into the 18s, mid 18s. As I was going to bed last night, we were in the mid 18s, and I thought I was going to wake up today to revisiting that 17 and a half low that we saw back in June. We didn't. We obviously, as I just said, bounced back up already. It's crazy volatility within. It's a small range, but like the time of volatility has been crazy here the last
Yeah.
48 hours, and it's making me wonder if this means we are. I say precipice. That could mean any amount of time, I guess. Excuse me, but if we are close to like that big final, maybe not even final, but like a bigger leg down, and this, we were calling last week was a big day. I was talking about September 21st and the FOMC rate hike. They did another 75 basis points, of course. We didn't see, we actually had like a little wee bit of a pump in the coming days after that, as much as you can in this market. But we're, based on the news we heard last week, where it sounds like we're probably getting, I think we're probably getting another 75 in November.
I think so
And
too.
yeah, and then maybe a couple more early 2023. So, it would stand to reason that this doesn't have to happen yet. But I mean, how much more of these can we really go? And then, and then the effects actually take place on the US economy on a grander scale. And then we see prices of a speculative investment like Bitcoin really start to plummet. I mean, how long can we really go before that happens?
Well, traditionally, the bear markets usually last a year, so we still have until November probably. If you time that out from the last high, would we say it was the 17th? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around November 17th was um, the last Bitcoin high.
Hmm.
So we've at least got that long. I don't think it's going to get any shorter at this point, especially with what's going on in the rest of the markets. So we're still looking just under 2 months away from that date. So
But I'm wondering if, and I guess that can mean a lot of things. Does that mean like whenever we're right around the bottom or when we start to recover? Because I think there's a chance that with some of this macro stuff going on, that it may even come in later than that date.
it's
I think that,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. Like I said, we were talking earlier, the Mount Gox coins. There's been no news
Mm, right.
of that either, and we many of us think it's going to be a pretty eventful happening. A lot of coins hitting the market, depending on how far down it is at that point. And it could rally even before that happens, but that could send it over the edge to go down
Right.
even further. We'll see. The people that have been in that long could have the mindset as well as to, well, I've waited this long. Let's maybe wait till the market goes up a little bit. Who knows?
Right.
There's so much individual, biases that it's gonna be really hard to tell what happens to the majority of it. But I still
Mhm.
think there are going to be many people taking profit. They don't care what price it is. They've waited this long.
And now that I'm looking at this, and I don't want to act like the market is this severely tied to Jerome Powell and the Fed, but actually, it looks like the FOMC meeting date for November. We've been on this pattern of the last week of the month, pretty much. No, that's not totally true. No, I'm almost completely lying. It was mid June, but
It's
then it
okay.
was
It's okay. Nobody will know.
no, nobody will. But not, these things aren't that interesting. But yeah, it was July 27th and then September 21st. Now we're going to have November 1st and 2nd is the next meeting. So maybe there is more credence to that theory of November containing the actual bottom, because that would be early November that we would get the news on the 75, which again, I think I'm saying it, casually right now. People were pricing in 75 for September. The fact that I'm already saying this right now in November, based off the comments of Powell on September 21st. He sounded hawkish enough when we saw their plans going into 2023. I think it's a certainty that we're getting 75. So I think that could be, again, priced in, but I don't know how long that can just keep happening.
Yeah.
It's one thing for there not to be tons of trading off of the announcement and in the coming hours and days after the announcement, but what about when these things really start taking hold again on the American economy on a grander scale, and people can't do what they once were able to do? I mean, like, I think that's when we would really see the price start to dip down.
I do too. I mean, it's already starting to happen. It just hasn't been as severe as some of us think it's going to get. Wait till it's cold outside for much of the nation and you're trying to heat your house and the fuel bills go through the roof.
Hmm.
It could happen, and people may need to sell some of the crypto to get them through. I don't know, but it is a
How dare
possibility. I know.
weekends?
I know
They
weekends.
stay warm.
That's why you stake it and you can't touch it, right?
Right, right. Well, if they had a
So,
minimalist mindset, they would, just turn the heat down and wear a
yeah,
couple of layers. But
I hear
that's
you.
just me. Yeah.
Some of us like
Anyway.
to walk around in shorts and keep it at 74 though. So
Right, right. Um, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months. Yeah, we could have a real bloodbath of a Thanksgiving, maybe even Christmas too. Um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting. It's so crazy, I think about where we were at this point last year when we started this podcast, and we were heading into quarter 4, and at this moment last year, you know, seems like an eternity away, but many people were uber bullish at this point.
Hmm.
We talk about Hex obviously on this program quite often. It was hitting its all-time high at around 56 cents. Obviously, Bitcoin then did in November. Everybody was gearing up for what they thought was going to be an epic quarter 4, and that we were going to get a 6-figure BTC by the end of the year or in like early 2023. None of that happened. Newsflash, if you are new to the crypto markets. And quite the opposite has happened. And we sit here now again at 19.5K for BTC off of 69K in November of last year. So that's where we are. I will say we have an interesting thing happening now this year where I think what we've already said here is the majority opinion. Like most people think we are going to get that extra leg down into the mid or lower teens. I've seen as low as 10. And of course, there's going to be people out there saying that the bottom is already in. But, I don't think it
Well,
is.
so I've seen a lot of bullish sentiment for Hex
Mm-hmm.
in the past week, more than I've seen this entire bear market.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People are saying and doing, and the chart may not show it currently, but there's a lot of interesting things happen that are very bullish. Just the sentiment overall. So it's possible Hex has maybe reached its bottom. I don't know. We could have another dip down before we take off, but um, we've been chopping at this level for quite some time, and if it
Right.
truly is just decorrelated as we think it is from the rest of the market, we've put our 365 days in, so
Right.
we'll see.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just going to pull up some of the technicals on Hex here as far as like some moving averages and stuff like that. Am I on Hex? Yeah. Um, yeah. So this chart is not correct. I'll have to get back to that. But yeah, that would be interesting because you just mentioned the decorrelation thing and where it is compared to the rest of the market. Yeah, it would be interesting if this was actually already the bottom for Hex. You're right, and it has ranged in this 3 cent range now for quite a while. There was a low at almost 2.5 cents. I don't even remember when that was. And we did dip back below 3 cents just very briefly about a week ago on Hex. But yeah, I think it's either like right now we're towards the bottom. I know Richard Hart himself speculated that the bottom was already in. Um, but there's other people who think there is a chance that it could go down under 2 cents for a small period of time still. And I don't know. I mean, like it is for me hard to imagine if BTC does go to the lower teens for a bit, even though Hex is not 100% correlated, obviously, that it couldn't dip down there. But maybe you're right. Maybe it. I've seen it the last few days. I mean, like you just sometimes check the charts and you check like most of the market compared to the Hex ecosystem, and one color's red, one color's green. It's like
Yeah.
stocks and bonds, kind of.
Yep. And I think that 2.7 cents is we've double bottomed there now twice. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's enough to give us a bottom or not, but I there's so much liquidity right there on the markets, the buy orders that are set to catch it. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
We have a good shot.
It's definitely going to be interesting. We'll see where we go. We were going to kind of touch briefly on this, and I know a lot of people are, and I was kind of venting to you before we started the show because it's a little frustrating to me, but so many people, and I already said, I know a lot of people don't know what to talk about at this point in the bear market. We're really kind of grasping at straws, but so many people are talking about like when is Do Kwon going to be captured, and you brought up Alex Mashinsky from Celsius, Do Kwon obviously from Terra Luna fame, and all these kind of shysters on the run. Um, and when are they going to get their comeuppance? And to me, it's like that shouldn't really be that much of a consequence to you. You know what I mean? Like more so in the Do Kwon case, I'm just seeing like so many tweets about Do Kwon and YouTube videos about Do Kwon and all this stuff, and it's like, what if you're like pissed and vengeful because you held a lot of Terra Luna? I guess you can kind of be like, rooting for this guy to get what's coming to him. But other than that, I mean, and even that wouldn't serve much purpose. But other than that, it's
No.
like this doesn't really affect you. Like this isn't any kind of concrete strategic stuff. I guess it's just a matter of like I need to say something, and I might as well talk about this drama.
Yeah, it's possible. I did see he just posted not too long ago. So I mean,
I
he's
think
still
I heard.
active on Twitter. Eric Wall was talking to him.
Nice.
Said he was somewhere and said let's have dinner or something like that. So I don't know what
Oh my
that was all
God.
about.
And he's still tweeting, but he's
Yeah, yeah.
man. It's
So
crypto.
I mean, I hope he gets caught. He
Yeah.
deserves to get caught, but it's not going to affect me one way or another. Obviously, I didn't have anything invested in there, but
Right.
for the people who did, I'm sure they want to see some sort of justice, even though they probably realize it's not going to help them either, other than the fact that somebody that scammed them got caught, kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So
And do you realize, and maybe this is just something that I've been realizing with being, the YouTube noob here kind of, but like there are channels entirely dedicated to talking about and trading Luna Classic. Like that's what they talk about every single day.
yeah, I
Um
believe it.
I just don't understand it. I mean, like I know there's probably crazy volatility right now. But yeah, that's like their whole identity is just that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Either they weren't around for the first one, or they lost so badly that they think they're going to get redemption. I don't know how you can not think that something similar is going to happen again. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I
odd.
stay far away from it, and on top of it, it's trading, which I don't do either. So
Right. Right.
double whammy for me.
Yeah. What was the deal? You were telling me a little bit about Alex Mashinsky from Celsius before we
Yeah,
started. What came out on him the other day?
he officially stepped down as CEO. Um, Immediately of that tweet, whatever it was. I forget if it was Monday or Tuesday, but I said it wasn't soon enough, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he stepped down. I don't know who took over. They're still in bankruptcy settlement, whatever you call it. They're trying to crowd. I don't know what they're doing. They're crowdfunding to try and get back, which I don't know why anybody would.
Right.
Again, if it comes out in Celsius 2 or whatever it might be, or even if the regular,
Celsius too. Yeah.
who knows? I just
Celsius
can't believe that
Classic.
people, I mean, there's always a new bunch of people though that don't know what happened the first time. So
Right.
there's always going to be new money that just doesn't do their research. They hear a little bit
Yeah.
of yield and they jump all over it. So
And that is going to be the unfortunate thing is, you can say like not your keys, not your coins, and to stay off centralized lending platforms like that until you're blue in the face. But the bottom of the line is, this is still a new market and very new, and a lot of when the market gets hot again, maybe late next year into 2024, there's going to be a whole crop of new people. Yeah, you're right, that come in and are going to flock to those kind of platforms that are run by the suits, the people that look trustworthy. It's kind of like how we treated politicians for years. When you used to
yeah,
look at them as like the model of I don't know, a role model or something like
right,
that. But you look at those people and it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't. I see this guy over here. I see like a guy like Richard Hart out here talking about like his, PP size and driving all these cars and the outrage marketing and everything. I'm going to go to this guy over here in the suit that has this cool lending platform. And I think it's kind of a lesson that like crypto is just different, and you have to understand that if you're going to engage with it on a serious level.
yeah. Well, I remember back, even I don't know when it was, probably 2 years ago, not quite 2 years ago, but Mashensky and Richard Hart were on the same stream. I believe it was Altcoin Daily or BitBoy or one of those streams. They were
Right.
on together, and
Huh.
Richard flat out pretty much called him a scammer. And then Mashensky said same thing to him. It's just funny how that whole played out. Um, and Celsius had millions of people,
Oh yeah.
so they fell for the wrong one.
Right. Yeah. Well, it is that thing. I think it's the guys who look like they're the corporate guys. That's
Yeah,
obviously what you're gonna where you're
yep,
gonna put your money. But with crypto, you have to understand like the whole point of this movement is like you are the bank. It's not like the old days. Your money's not FDIC insured, whatever that's good for. Um, this is different. And I don't think people realize that are entering the market sometimes.
yeah. Well, I
Um,
think FDIC only goes up to 100,000, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just
Maybe
gonna say whatever that's good for. I don't even I don't even know
I'm
all
pretty
the
pretty
yeah.
sure.
But
So
yeah, so that's what's going on, I guess, with the scammers. But yeah, in terms of the market, there's not really too much else to get into. Um, yeah, I mean, boy, I'm just kind of going down uh nomics right now and just checking out anything that we can get into as far as the coins. But yeah, there's just not a lot going on. We are in the midst of this bear market. And, I think it's important that people basically just work on your education right now, be yielding on any kind of coins that you can. And I would just be DCAing at some point, or if you want to now, depending on how much you're already into the market, into whatever you're comfortable holding for, 3, 5 plus years, the stuff that this isn't the time to take like super, super speculative bets, you know,
no,
in terms of your coins. But what
and
thoughts do you have there?
well, and something else too. You want to keep an eye out for reputable new projects that may be starting as well.
Hmm.
I know there is, if you have the Staker app and
Hmm.
you got a Gnosis Safe wallet and actually transacted on it, whether you did a stake or a transfer or a sell, whatever it may have been, through the address that you got from Staker, there is a Gnosis Safe, I think it's safe.io, um, airdrop available. Um, that is a reputable company. So, as far as I know, I haven't heard any red flags on it, but there is a airdrop for that. Um, Play around with testnet again. Pulse chain
Hmm.
testnet is still there. You should be learning it. You should be practicing and seeing how to liquidity farm and your incentive token and see how that works. The
Hmm.
values aren't real, but the things that happen inside of there are real. Learn how to set limit orders. That's now done and updated in there. There's just you could play around with the ETH W chain as well. I don't recommend that you go in and buy a bunch of stuff, but if you do have stakes on Hex, they were copied. If you have any that ended, you might want to end them so at least they don't bleed out. So, there's things that you can do to keep you busy, engaged, and not lose your money, but still stay, active enough that you're still in it and checking on things every day.
Well, let's do this to kind of get us out of the bear doldrums a little bit here. And I know that you're probably going to go just down kind of one lane here, Ewok, but I'll let you start too. Let's talk about when we do, as far off as it may seem, approach price appreciation again, enthusiasm in the market, going back into bullish trends. Let's place our bets here. Let's we'll just go as far as we can go anyway. I'm not going to put a number on it, but let's place our bets on the few things. And I do want to keep it under at least like 8 or 6 or so, because I don't we agree on this that we don't think a portfolio should have more than like 6 or 8 coins or something like that. And I know you're a fan of having even less than that, but people get a little bit too exuberant, I think, and get into way too many things. But where are you hedging your bets? What are the handful-ish of things that you want to make sure that you are heavily invested in when this market does turn around? What right now, what are your horses? Where are you placing your bets? I'll let you go first, and then I'll go after that. But I guess give me a solid 5. Let's do that. Let's pick a number. Give me 5 things you want to make sure that you're involved in, invested in, aware of in crypto here, for when prices do turn around, because you want to be preparing for that right now. I mean, people want to know what to be getting into, because the best prices we're ever going to see likely are coming here. So,
Yep. Okay. Well, obviously, my number one is Hex, only because you're going to get a
really,
copy. Yeah, imagine that.
okay,
The second reason I say Hex is because the T-share price continues to go up every day, no matter what kind of market we're in. So it gets harder and harder to accumulate the T-shares, which are truly your golden goose. That's what makes you your yield. That's what keeps the whole system running properly. And again, I think, even right now, accumulating those is super important. I could say Hex on the pulse. Go ahead.
real quick, let me interrupt you. Yeah,
Yeah,
this might be a little bit of a tangent, but I do think it's a really important one, because I think it's really the engine of Hex. Can you take a quick detour and explain what T-shares are real quick for anybody who's new or maybe skips over the Hex stuff when we talk about it, or whatever, or just doesn't
sure.
understand it? Explain what a T-share is and why they are so important to Hex.
Sure. So T-shares are essentially the way of compounding interest, because you can't do it in a sense that works out so that somebody making short stakes um, will never outweigh the ones that are making the longer stakes. And of course, the idea behind Hex was always that longer pays better.
Hmm.
So they came up with a formula of a share rate per se. Now, the share rate only goes up, and the reason it does that is because it calculates when somebody ends a stake. They find out if they have made more of an ROI than the last person. If it did, then that share rate increases. So pretty much anybody with longer and longer stakes is going to cause the share rate to always go up.
Hmm.
So what is the share rate and how does it matter? Um, when you make a stake in Hex, which you can make it from 1 day all the way up to 5,555 days, which is about 15.2 years. Your Hex that you stake is essentially burned. You are rewarded back what we call shares. And depending on how many Hex that you staked will depend on how many shares you get of the system. You could think of it as a piece of pie. So the daily interest that is calculated from the whole environment is split up amongst all the people that have shares. And that determines how much you get on a daily basis. So when you honor your contract and on the last day that your stake ends, that share rate is calculated, and based on the payout per day of Hex per T share. So that's how it's figured out. It calculates every day's interest that is accumulated throughout the period that you said you would lock it up, the new yield, as well as your initial principal, is minted back, that you mint your own, and the T shares are then burned. So it causes a constant striving to get more shares. The shares get harder to acquire because they do become more expensive as well. Now, we're in a break right now because the price of Hex is down. At one point, one T share was well over 15,000, I think, at one point,
Mhm.
maybe even more to get one T share. We're down. I think you can get one for about $900 now, or maybe less. I'm not sure on those numbers, but either way, the system itself makes sure that short stakers can't stake once a month, once a month, once a month, and outdo the people that have said, I'm locking mine up for 15 years.
Right.
So they will continuously get fewer and fewer shares every time they do that until they're just not getting very much at all. Meanwhile, the person that locked in that share rate on the day that they did it will capture that rate for those full 15 years. So essentially, it's the way that compound interest works as everybody else is getting less and less because they locked in more. They're locked at that rate for the entirety of their stake. So I don't
Right.
know if that was a good explanation
Really
of the
good.
shares.
Yeah. So really, name of the game when it comes to hex is it's all about the T shares. So
Yep.
make sure you stack them up, and that's your way to get obviously way more hex. So
Yep.
we got your number one. So we got hex. Give me four more. Where are you placing your bets as
So
we get to the bottom of this?
1 and 2 both are hex because we will get
Okay.
once we get
That's
the
cheating.
pulse chain. I know, but they'll still be my two because we will operate them differently. I think, as
Yeah.
we've seen in the bull markets, Ethereum gas fees are extremely high. So I think there will be a play when Pulse Chain launches to maybe bridge over some hex over to Pulse Chain, operate as some liquidity, and hopefully those prices even out, and you're not going to get the impermanent loss when people are trading those two pairs. I think they'll move together. It's always one of the risks of providing liquidity is one side moves a lot higher than the other side, right?
Right.
So you end up with a more worthless coin and a bunch of the other one that nobody wants. However, when you pair them off of a bridge like that, I think they'll both stay quite valuable, and it could be a nice little income generator if you provide liquidity. So that's why I say those two. I'm listing them separately. Um, Pulse X, I believe, would be the next one. Is
Pulse
that
X
fair?
over Pulse. Yeah, go ahead.
Over Pulse Chain, initially, yes. Um, I think you're muted or something happened to your audio, but
You hear me now?
yes, you're good. Sorry, I
There
don't
we
know what
go.
happened.
So yeah, riddle me that. Tell me about why you would pick Pulse X over Pulse Chain.
Well, Pulse X has the buy and burn function built into it that constantly adds buy pressure to the coin itself. Anytime liquidity is added or taken out of the exchange, partially transaction fees, there's a portion of it that goes into the buy and burn function that will turn around, buy PulseX coin, and then burn them immediately. So it constantly is positive pressure to the upside as far as buy pressure is. And I think it's going to be a lot stronger at first. Now, long term, I think Pulse Chain will probably take over once people start to move over there, start to transact. But because the fees are so low to begin with, delegating your Pulse Chain. So I've got 1 and 2 Pulse, or 1 and 2 are Hex. Number 3 is Pulse X. Number 4 is Pulse Chain. Um, and I think number 5 for me is definitely Ethereum.
Oh,
It's
nice.
still going to move. We're still going to see some exponential gains. And I think it's going to be quite profitable. I think the next bear or bull market could get us up into the 10,000,
Yeah.
12,000 range, I think. If the cycle kind of goes on its same trajectory, I think we could be in that vicinity. So picking some up at the bottom, if we get into $500, $600, $700 ETH, would be a good buy. Plus, we're going to need it for our gas fees again.
Right.
So just having some now as opposed to later would make a lot of sense. And I'll throw in the number 6. I'm still not sold that Bitcoin um, is going to make a huge run. It could get over 100,000, maybe double its all-time high, 120, but it's only, a 2x from the high. That's not really why
Right.
we're here, right? We're not here for 5, 10x. It doesn't, you can do that in the stock market probably
Right.
um, in a few years as well. So that's my top 6. So let's
I
let's
like it.
let's hear yours.
I like it. I will start by um well, I guess I would have to do kind of what you did. We'll start by what I think will be most impactful and work our way back. You're obviously a little bit more, well, probably a lot more educated on the Hex and Pulse ecosystem than but I just don't see a way where you call anything but Pulse and or Pulse X just kind of by proxy like the number one opportunity um, going into the next bull market. I just, you have now you and I are both coming from places where we were already able to get in on the ground floor, literally, even before the ground floor with a fair launch, which you don't see in anywhere these days. You're not going to get a fair launch in crypto, maybe ever again. Maybe another Richard Hart product, but you're not gonna get that. They're most of these are already gonna have venture capitalists having their hands on it and stuff, and you get it whenever it comes to the market. Now that's okay in crypto, kind of compared to legacy markets. I mean, there's still plenty of X's to be had, but to be able to get on the ground floor on a fork of Ethereum like this, I really think it's going to be the biggest opportunity as we head into the next bull market. And there's probably a lot of people listening to this that don't even know what we're talking about. Um, don't want to hear it if they do know what we're talking about, I don't think, and aren't interested in it. But I mean, if you arrive to that set of opinions, then that's okay, and that's on you. The sacrifice phase for both of those coins is already gone, Pulse and Pulse X. So I mean, at this point, you would have to buy in the days or weeks after it's launched. But to me, that's got to be number one. I mean, in terms of X's and biggest potential as we head into the next bull run. So
So Pulse Chain 1 for you.
yeah, I would go. I'm kind of just throwing the Pulse ecosystem in there, I guess. Well, I'm not talking about Hex. I'm talking specifically Pulse. So yeah, I'll just say
Sure.
Pulse/Pulse X. I'm basically saying
Okay.
number one. Um, man, for my number two, and I'm really going in order of like potential gains. Man, I am like tied between these two. I'll tell you what. Um, I'll call them 2 and 3 in some order. That I guess I'll talk about Hex first because I already talked about Pulse. We are way over 10x off of the all-time high. I think it's like a 12x at this point, being at 3.5 cents for Hex, all-time high of about 56 cents. There's a lot of room to grow. We already talked about the bullishness of being tied, obviously, to Pulse Chain. There's obviously a lot of stuff there, and the fact that you're going to get a copy of all the Hex, it not only is it a 12x from the current prices, there's an automatic 2x, or you're getting a copy of them, I should say. I don't want to say there's an automatic 2x on your cash, but you're getting an automatic copy of your coins on the Pulse chain. So that's got to be right there as well.
Yeah.
I guess I would have to put that as number 2. So I'll say Pulse chain 1, Hex number 2. For me, now this is where we're going to get into the lingo that most people in crypto are talking. For me, number 3 is going to be Phantom. It's been one of my favorites for a while. We saw an amazing run up to $3.40 for its all time high. I guess it would have been probably around November. I don't even know now. And it's the whole way down at 22.5 cents right now. Now, there's a lot of support for Phantom around, and Phantom is FTM. It's, on Nomics anyway, it's 81st overall in market cap. It's probably higher on coin market cap, but where's it going? So there's a lot of support at 20 cents, but after that, it could be kind of a lookout below situation. We could get into the, I don't know, 4 to 10 cent range. I kind of hope that doesn't happen. To buy some, I hope it does, but I would like to see strength remain at 20 cents. But again, you're looking at like 12x. I don't even know how many X's that is off of the all-time high, but it's not even just that and the chance for that price appreciation. If you look into the Phantom ecosystem, I mean, they're doing some of the coolest stuff in the DeFi space right now. I think they're one of the best, actually, at the products they have. You check out Spooky Swap, Spirit Swap. There's all kinds of different yield farming platforms and stuff like that. There's a lot going on Phantom. One of the best developers in crypto, Andre Cronier, who has kind of stepped away specifically from Phantom, but is still obviously there working on stuff. That was actually one of the big reasons that it did go down in price in March of this year, kind of before the shit really hit the fan in this bear market.
The developer stepped away.
Yeah, well, he's one of the there's like 45 developers, so it doesn't really impact the project or anything that much, but he was like the man. So there was a lot of people that were like, oh, that, a capitulation on Phantom a little bit. But from what I understand and from I've seen on like updates and stuff like that, he still is working with them. He just was, took a step away from the DeFi space a little bit, but there's tons of stuff still happening on Phantom. And to me, I think it could be one of the biggest winners of the next bull market and potentially be top 10 in market cap by the time we're done. Top 15 anyway. So that's going to be number 3 for me. Okay. Number 4. Oh, boy. This is an interesting one. You may even be surprised by what I'm going to say here. I'll tell you what, number 4, I'm going to go, excuse me, with Matic, actually. I'm going to go with Polygon because it is revealing itself as the largest layer 1 solution for Ethereum. And Disney has already gotten into bed with them. Much like Ethereum, the only difference is with Matic, it's actually sustained this. It's already done a 2x off of its lows. And I think their lows were also in June, but once this Disney news was announced, it did a 2x off of the lows of like 35 cents or so. And as of this podcast, we're trading at about 75 cents. There's a lot of really bullish stuff happening with Matic. I think it's going to be around long term, and I think it definitely does cement itself well into the top 10 here for years to come. And even though, you might say, where's the price appreciation there? Because its all-time high is right around $2.90. We're at 75 cents right now. Excuse me. I think there's enough, bullish things going on within Matic that we see a lot of X's when the bull market comes back. I think it's going to be, I could see it being as household of a name as Solana was in 2021. I think that's where we could see Matic here in the next bull run. So, that'll be my number 4. And the number 5, I'm tempted to go ETH as well. But since you already did and it's kind of boring, I'm going to go ahead and say Polkadot.
That's all right.
Yeah, well, I ETH would probably, that's like the one I'm leaving off, but I'm going to say Polkadot actually. I think same thing there. It's already a steady high earner. It's not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world to say, hey, I'm going to buy some Polkadot right now. I mean, it's easy to do. And what I like about them is their focus on interoperability. There's not a lot of coins doing that. Cosmos is another project that's doing something similar, but Polkadot, with Gavin Wood behind it, who is, one of the main creators of or developers on Ethereum, is, to me, it gives a lot of bullish sentiment to it. It has absolutely, the Polkadot ecosystem has the best wallet I've ever used in my life, the Fearless wallet, which is specific to that ecosystem. I would tell people, go ahead.
I've heard a lot of good things, not just from you. I mean, I've heard you make some comments about the Fearless wallet.
I would tell people to literally get into Polkadot just to check this wallet out. I think it's awesome. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. Yeah.
Do you have to get into Polkadot to experience the wallet, or can you kind of download it, check it out, and see what it does without purchasing?
I think I'm trying to think back. Yeah, I think you can probably do some. Yeah, you can create a wallet and everything and get in there. Now, obviously, you can't stake what you don't have within it or anything, but
right.
Yeah, you could still get a feel of what it's all about. You could populate a wallet address and everything. And yeah, the 2 most popular coins that are going to be accessible in there in the ecosystem are Polkadot and Kusama, which is kind of the test net type thing for Polkadot is Kusama, but you can stake both of them there. The downside with poking Stakeadot, the downside with staking Polkadot within the Fearless wallet is it is a 28-day lockup period.
Okay.
So that's not like, staking like Hex. It's basically if you wanted to stake an X amount of Polkadot, when you unbond it, you got to wait 28 days. So you're illiquid for that long. So, be careful with that. That's why I would only stake like a bag that you're not going to be like trading if you get a 2X on it or something. Kusama is only 7 days though, which is kind of more customary. So yeah, really bullish on Polkadot. That would probably be number 5 for me. If I had to make it number 6, I'd probably say Ethereum too. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that 10K price target for the next bull market is definitely a strong possibility.
Interesting.
So
You
yeah,
left out Bitcoin.
I did leave out Bitcoin because we're talking about like what has the most potential. I'm talking about like where we're
No,
going to place our bets. So
fair enough.
yeah,
Good point.
That's kind of where I feel the most strong. I mean, I if it were me, I would not want to have a Bitcoin less or an Ethereum less portfolio. I think that you should have that. I think it's probably good to have that equaling about 30% or so of your portfolio, maybe minimum. And I know some people would go a lot higher than that, kind of as a rudder to your ship. But I mean, at this point, Ethereum, I think we can say is
Some
here
people
for the
go a
long
lot
haul.
lower.
Go ahead. Say it again.
Some people go a lot lower.
Some people do go. Some people don't do it at all, and I think that's fine. It depends on how you're trying to invest. You know what I mean? And a lot of us are here in crypto for the crazy gain. So I totally understand not wanting to hold Bitcoin. If you're all in on crypto, I think there's a chance that if you're all in on crypto, there's a lot less likelihood you hold Bitcoin as opposed to somebody who's like 10% of my net worth is in crypto and they just put it in Bitcoin, maybe a little bit in Ethereum.
Yeah. Yep. I hear you.
So yeah, that's where I'm placing my bets. I think we both got good lists there, and I'm, it is getting me excited. I mean, I know we're talking about something that isn't here yet, but I mean, we're so dead right now in this market that it's nice.
I know. What do you talk about? It is good to think about the things that are coming, and more so, not just talk about the things that are coming. Is I want people to hear about it before it happens, and Richard Hart has given us Hex. I think he's giving us another life-changing opportunity. You don't get many of those, and like you said, the way it happens is a fair launch. There is no VCs. If anything, they got in on the sacrifice just like everybody else. They're going to hold some coins, but I think you're going to have the wonderful opportunity. After price discovery, it will probably go down at first because it's been so long since the sacrifice. There are going to be people that just sell and they don't care. They just want their money because they've had to wait so long. That is going to happen. I can almost guarantee it. I shouldn't, but I think I will. I think there are just so many people that are frustrated that don't understand the delaying of gratification and how well it really does pay off for most people if you can just wait. But yeah, I think there's going to be a massive sell-off when it happens, and I think you're probably going to get some amazing deals, 20 days after launch. Would probably be a good time to consider putting a little bag or so in there and checking it out, because you could see some face melting gains as far as I'm concerned.
And that's going to be the real fortitude is like for people that are already in or already sacrificed, or even if they're not yet and still need to buy Pulse or PulseX, is really somehow finding a way to sit on your hands for a couple of weeks and let the dust settle, because you're going to get swallowed up if you try to partake in that right away. And it's going to be tempting. It's one thing to sit here right now and say that, but in the fever pitch, there's so much anticipation for this thing, and it's been talked about for so long. So many people thought Pulse would have launched long ago. So by the time it does, my God, I mean, I can't even imagine the chaos.
Anticipation galore.
Right. Yep. It's going to be interesting. I'm pretty pumped for it. So, I think the next time we talk, there's a chance we have a little bit more to get into as far as movements in the market. And November, I think, is going to be a really big month. But I really think in October, we could have a pretty spooky Halloween here, speaking of spooky swap. and I think we could have. I think we'd have the beginning of these prices, and I am interested because literally on Halloween, that's one day before the FOMC meets again. So
Yeah.
we could start to see the downward pressure going into the FOMC meeting, and then we see where we go from there. Let's just nuke the whole thing. Like, let's just go to the FOMC, give us 100 basis point hike, which most people are not expecting, and let's just plunge.
Yep. Let's do
Get
it.
it over
Get it
with,
over with.
right? I'm
I
with
think
you.
so.
Rip off the Band-Aid. I think we'd all
Yep.
appreciate that at this point. We're getting teased here. Does it not feel like we're like in the midst of like one long episode of foreplay, but not
I
like
think,
the good kind,
yeah, they're just toying with it. I really think, I think they are. I think they don't want to go too far too soon. They're like, well, let's just see what happens. Let's just
Yeah.
poke the bear just a little bit. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to beat him over the head with a stick. I just want to poke him a little bit.
Right. I think
I
you're
agree.
right.
Get it over with.
They're luring us in. They're reeling us in. So
Yeah.
that is going to bring us to the end of this week's episode of the Creative Crypto Podcast. Before we leave, though, Ewok, do you have any parting thoughts, things to look out for specifically this week? Any other little hex tidbits you'd like to provide or anything?
Well, the one thing I kind of brought it up to you earlier, and I would like you to kind of tell the listeners a little bit of your background, you know, and they've heard mine, you know, getting in early 2017, going through all the platform nonsense and riding through the first bear market of mine anyway. I'd like you to tell them kind of a little bit about your journey and what got you into crypto, and tell them why you're here, if you would.
Well, I guess I'll reveal my history then. Yeah, I mean,
You don't have to get too personal. Just, you know,
I'm just
just kind of your journey, and it
yeah,
makes people feel more relatable. I think. I just think
yeah.
once they hear, so
No, I think that is a good point, actually. Yeah, and I obviously so in 2017 was definitely like my first biggest awareness of Bitcoin, and I already was aware of it. And the reason I was mainly aware of it is because I used to be a sports bettor, and as many people could probably relate. And before it was sports betting was so prominently legal in the United States, it's not as big of a thing to say you're able to bet on sports in the US now, but there was a time where the most efficient way to get anything done, and I'm not disclosing that I ever did anything like this, but um, is you would send Bitcoin to an offshore sports book, basically, and or even Ethereum. There was actually a time where they used Dash too. I remember they took like Dash payments, all kinds of stuff, Litecoin.
yeah.
Um, so that was really when I was first aware of it, and I knew what it was. I understood that it was like a some kind of digital or cryptocurrency. I knew, and basically all I thought of Bitcoin at that time was just that it was like, okay, kind of like what we've heard it pitched as is like a digital gold, in a store of value, which really is what it is becoming. I mean, it's not. I also thought maybe it was like a means of currency. Then it's not really looking. The use case hasn't really been there as far as that has gone. But that was really my main introduction to it. And that made it easy to understand how to use it. Then, and I think this is the main reason you're asking me this to kind of toot your own horn, but I met you sometime around that time, and you kind of got me a little bit more squared away in terms of a lot of the basics, like just kind of how to use. And I wasn't really investing at the time. I just was, again, using it as a utility. But like you got me into how to using a wallet, um, Coinbase Pro, which is now already becoming obsolete, I guess. But at the time was called GDAX, if you remember.
Yep.
And you kind of got me set up on there, showed me how to use that, showed me how to get stuff off of there and send it to a wallet in between that and the sports book, basically. And we had a lot of conversations about Bitcoin, but I wasn't really like delving into it in an investment way. And you got to remember back then, a lot of people right now, 5 years on, I mean, again, we're not to mass adoption or anything like that, but a lot of people look at Bitcoin and crypto with some more like normalcy now. You were even more of a freak if you were in it in 2017. I mean,
Yeah.
you were, Well, I don't want to speak out of turn, I guess, but like I imagine that the response you got from people at that time, not me, because I've always been kind of a freak too. Um, but I imagine most of the responses you got from people at that time were like eye rolls and stuff. I don't know.
Some,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, because that's what it was like in 2017, right?
yeah, yeah. I heard a lot of people that just thought it was for buying illegal stuff on the dark web.
Oh yeah, right.
That's what they
Silk
thought.
Road.
That's what they heard. Silk Road. Yeah, I mean, they didn't know what Silk Road was, but I think that was the association at that
Hmm.
point. And then there's the religious type of folks who thought, oh no, that's the what's uh, one world coin or something like that, and they thought it was
Some
very
kind of QAnon.
well. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
so you got the couple things, and then just other people were like, yeah, it's never going to do anything, never going to amount to anything because they didn't believe it, still don't. But
right.
well,
Chances are they don't. But yeah,
yeah,
you were a major catalyst in like getting me to understand a little bit more about it and some of the other coins. And I remember back then it was all about like in that market it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, um, I guess Bitcoin Cash technically, Monero,
mm,
EOS, Neo, Dash. You know, I mean that
Dash,
was a lot of what was
yeah,
going on at the time. But I really didn't take anything about it. I was always aware of it. It was always kind of in the background, and I always had curiosities about crypto, but stayed out of it. Even when we had, the first time it really blew past 20K. And when it first had even gone to the 60Ks, I was still like kind of just aware but not fully invested, And I think with me, so many people blame themselves for coming to the market whenever they were at the top of the bull market, or it was always like in their news feed, or there was all these things that kind of attracted them to it because of the market's fever pitch. And that really wasn't it for me. Like I could go to my grave saying that. I wasn't like a moth to a flame with it, where it was like, oh, I'm seeing guys on Twitter talk about it. I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. It wasn't like I was captured by my favorite NFL player,
mm,
taking his paycheck in Bitcoin or anything. I had some stuff go on in my life that I was like, I'm just done. You know what I mean? Like in terms of living and I already wasn't living like the normal, I think, lifestyle that most people enjoy. But it a sequence of events happened that really got me to rip the band-aid off and realize like, okay, I'm going into my final form now, and I'm just totally not subscribing to this typical American lifestyle anymore,
yeah,
and hey, I think I'm not alone in that. I think like in these last 2-3 years, a lot of people are probably saying that. Now, I don't know if all those people have delved as deeply into crypto as I have or where you're at or anything, but I think a lot of people have really facelifted their lives in a positive way over the last few years because we've had some crazy events happen that are luckily
yeah,
subsiding a bit now. But yeah, it took a lot of that crap for me without getting into the details to be like, all right, one of the pillars of what I believe is this form of finance and this form of money. And I think it was always in the back of my head, but I needed some kind of like major catalyst to get me there. And again, not a major catalyst in the market. I swear on my life, I didn't get into it because of all the bullishness. I just had stuff going on, and I'm like, you know what? And I wasn't even like that. Once I made the decision, if you will, to like start looking deeper into it, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm all in on crypto. I was just like, nah, you know what? Let me watch this stream tonight. Let me watch these guys talk about this. And yeah, I don't know. And like still making excuses not to get into it. And like I had to sell myself on it. So it wasn't even like overnight I was just in. I really kind of twisted my own arm. And then eventually I was it consumed my every waking moment. So and that's kind of where we are now. So, I mean, um I know I didn't give like tons of details there, but I do think the one
well,
thing that I
no, that's
said
fine.
that I think the one thing I did said that is similar though, and a lot of people in this country can share is like again the events of the last couple of years really changing their outlook on everything. And I'm not acting like I was some kind of. I certainly was no blue pilled liberal Disney boy or anything like that before all this. I just was not as awake as I am now, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think a lot of us could probably say that.
Yeah, I think a lot of anarchists, I guess you would call them, just realize that taking back control of your own money is going to be probably very beneficial. The more we hear about the CBDCs
Mhm.
and what goes along with them, they keep saying, oh, there'll be privacy, but
Yeah.
they can still turn it off when they want to flip a switch. You can't spend it on that. Sorry. You can't buy that. You can't buy this. And I don't know where it ends. And it's scary. I just,
Right.
I don't want to be put in that position. And I know we, in 2017, didn't have the foresight to see that. Uh, but
Right.
the further down this road we go and realize the more and more freedoms that we are losing and can lose, it gets pretty scary. So
Hmm.
I just think this is the way to go to not only um, make those crazy financial gains that you're probably not going to make, um, and then have a little bit of control at the same time. It's a win-win, really. That's how I see it anymore, and it's good to have friends that see it the same way. So just wanted to
I agree.
thanks for your story. It's you know
Yeah, I agree. And I hope that we get, more of them. Like, I hope that we, as the years do go on, we, span out and do in real life and the metaverse, I guess, get more and more
mm,
friends that are into all this. And I think we will, because they're going to have
yeah,
to. It's just an
they're
adoption that's going to have to take place.
they'll either adopt it or they'll get left behind, and then they'll say, "Man, I wish you would have got in when you did." That's the story you might always hear from people, but such is
Right.
life.
And something you always hear people say too is like, dude, you bought ETH at $80. You're so lucky, man. Like, how. And it's like, keep calling it luck.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's a crazy thing. Like, what you didn't just say right there, and what's so true is, like, the reason that a lot of people obviously aren't in this also is the volatility right now. It's not
Yeah.
fun to be sitting on portfolios that are like not only underwater, but like under the like Earth's core at this
Yeah.
point. Like, I mean, people are way down, and it's like, how am I ever going to recover? And it's crazy. And yeah, you just kind of have to. Yeah, that's why I like the memery of crypto.
Mm,
Like, that's why I
yeah.
just really like the Pepe stuff. And like, I have to go back and work at McDonald's again. And I'm poor now. Just these extremes of like, I'm the king, and I am, you know, my wife's boyfriend tells me what to do now, or I don't know.
Right.
It's just like
Yeah.
just extremes of ways that you go. So
BBC has a different meaning.
yeah, exactly. Right.
You know, well, they got to
Yeah.
watch your videos and learn how to live that modest
Yeah.
lifestyle. You know.
That's really it. And actually, instead of going way into that this week, I probably want to do that next week. But yeah, that was really, it actually, believe it or not, was a conversation with my dad that eventually really got me to start the YouTube channel, because um and you were saying this to me before we started this podcast about how I remember you specifically saying, like, you have a lot to say, you have a lot to talk about, and you feel that you have a lot of information and stuff like that, of course, especially in the hex realm, and you wanted to get it out there. And my dad and I were talking, a few months ago, and I was like, I saying kind of the same stuff you were, that like I'm interested in all this, and there are some things that I do know, and I'm an intense person. It's funny, you're an intense person sometimes in your own personal life and the people around you, but the internet is such a large place that
Right.
you're not that crazy. You realize whenever you're out there. But one thing I did realize is, like, I do live I don't want to call it, I don't think it's crazy, but like to what some people would consider crazy minimalist lifestyle. No, I don't live in a tiny house, or only walk to my destinations or anything like that. But I don't spend money. I mean, it's like purely on essentials, and I eat similar-ish things every single day and have a very like base, um, kind of selection of ingredients I get to make things. I don't mind putting hundreds of thousands of miles on the same car as long as it's a good car and is fuel efficient and stuff like that. Now, this is all a means to an end. This is not like a permanent lifestyle.
Sure.
Well, not the extreme parts of it, but I do find that like not having a lot of crap in my life, which a lot of people in America enjoy inviting a bunch of drama into their lives and then like justifying it for some reason.
Yeah.
I do like to just have a couple of things to focus on. So I think that part of minimalism will always stick with me. But the financial minimalism is kind of like, hey, I got to draw my, if you're not to your goal yet, I think you should be doing this. Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't have debt and all this stupid shit you can't afford if you're not to your goal yet. And I think that you should live, again, I wouldn't use the word radically, but some people would call what I do radical to get there. That's fine if you want to, like, okay. But I think that you should live like that until you have met your goal. And then, hey, after that, if you want to splurge, splurge on whatever you want.
Right.
So
It's a means to an end. Sure.
right.
I mean, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that, and you do build good habits. So too, once you do finally get there, it's a good way to keep wealth, and not just
Right.
blow it. So that goes a long way as well. Many people hit that sudden wealth syndrome, and they forget what they learned and how they got there, and they end up broke. So,
Mhm.
remembering some of those methodologies and things that got you there will make you appreciate it that much more. And chances are you won't have that sudden wealth syndrome and end up blowing it. So,
That's a really big thing is that's something that I try to tell myself when I take for granted those kind of minimalist skills is like this is a behavior and a skill that you will have for a lot of um alternatives to spending the way that most people do and mental disciplines and things like that that you can take from having a skill like this that I think I said to you, we were having one of our patented fireside chats last week, and I said, um, you talked about like you were giving me some kind of hypothetical about like a certain financial situation, and I remember I said I can make anything work, whatever. And I think, and that's probably exaggerating, but I think it's a valuable thing to know when times are tough, how to make them less tough by having skills and understanding how to handle money,
yeah,
and just not giving in to that American, I don't want to just call it American, but like just that greed and gluttony, which I have a video called something about gluttony on my channel. But yeah, like just that there, the $6 coffees, and I know that's a meme at this point, but like people are just obsessed with more, and want to have, it's not even keeping up with the Joneses anymore. It's like keeping up with the IG model. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And what they're doing in California, if you live in wherever, West Virginia, it's and none of that interests me. So yeah, it's a lifestyle thing. But again, it is a means to an end. And but again, not everybody's where they want to be financially. Most people aren't, especially right now. And I think it's minimalism and that kind of lifestyle is a good thing to adopt in the meantime. So
yep, I agree.
yeah. So that is that, I think. We'll probably get into that a little bit more next week because I do think it'd be nice to talk about some more real life tips about how to not um, be spending excess money when we're at these generational crypto prices right now. Do you have anything else to add, Ewok, or anything else you want to get into tonight?
Nope, I'm good. I think I'm
You're satisfied.
satisfied.
All right.
Now that
I am
we
too.
have one viewer, it's probably time to go.
That might have been me, actually. I just popped in. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Creative Crypto Podcast. Hey, you can follow us on Twitter. The podcast is at Creative Crypto. Crypto Ewok is at Crypto Ewok on Twitter and YouTube. I
Yep.
am at Broke Boy Crypto. Boy is BOI on YouTube and Twitter. I just released a video actually the other day of the top 6 most fuel efficient cars. If you want to save money, a good way to do it is with the waste of money that is your vehicle. And that's for heading into 2023. So definitely a handy video there. A pretty controversial car at the top of that list as far as miles per gallon, but it's pretty interesting. But a lot more to come on the YouTube channel, a lot more to come on the Creative Crypto podcast. We will be back next Wednesday to review where we're at in the market. Follow us on all those platforms, and we will catch you then on the Creed of Crypto podcast.